It's officially October 1st as of the upload of this video, which means spooky season has officially started, and in the Pokemon world, that means Ghost-type Pokemon. Ghost types are some of the most interesting and unique Pokemon out there for obvious reasons, and today we're gonna design some new ones. A good chunk of these do come from my Pokemon Cardinal project, so you might have already seen them, but I will be explaining the design origins, which is going to be really interesting, and there's also some Pokemon we're going to talk about that aren't from Cardinal as well. I also would like to sponsor myself really quick before we get into it, and remind you guys to check out my Pokeblock podcast if you haven't checked it out yet. I run it on another channel, but every week I chat about Pokemon with all of your favorite Poketubers like Birdkeeper Toby, Loxton, TrueGreen7, and even Cerebi. It's super fun and helps out the channel if you listen, so be sure to check it out. And now, on to the ghost types. So we're going to start off with what are probably the most traditional ghost types of the video, and that would be the young Ghoul family that feature in my Pokemon Cardinal series. Now, pretty understandably, there were a lot of comments when these guys were first shown off in Cardinal that they seem just like ghost-type versions of Lickitung, because, they have giant tongues. However, I assure you there is more to it than that. This whole evolutionary family actually centers around the move Lick, which can actually be easy to forget that it's a ghost-type move, and each stage of this family is also based on a specific Japanese yokai that feature long tongues themselves. The first stage, Young Ghoul, is based on the Abura Akago, an infant spirit that uses its long tongue to lap up oil out of lamps. Young Ghoul's evolution, Langhoul, is based on the Kasa Obake, a yokai that is essentially a living umbrella, which is what gives Langhoul its body shape and is also often depicted with a long tongue. Its name also comes from ghoul and langue, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, the French word for tongue, and that is used because of the prominence of French culture in Canada, which is what the region is based on that these two Pokemon feature in. And last but not least, there was actually a third stage to this family of Pokemon that got scrapped during development of Pokemon Cardinal, and this is what it looks like. It is based on the Akashida, another yokai who has a long tongue as one of its prominent features, and hides within a dark cloud with only its face and claws sticking out. It more or less got cut from my Cardinal project due to balancing out the Pokedex for my region, but I still really enjoy this family of ghost types and how they came together. Next, we're going to move to a very different kind of ghost type, which later on I actually realized was way cooler than I originally thought. So while I was designing Pokemon for my Cardinal series, I had a Chipmunk Pokemon I had brought in that was based on a Fakemon I made all the way back when I was a little kid. This was going to be the regular old regional rodent of the region, so it was just normal type at this point and not even ghost at all. Well, eventually I came to the point where I wanted to switch up it and its evolution's design somehow, and give them a more interesting angle. That's when I decided to make them part ghost type for no other reason than it made them a little more interesting and cool. However, I'm also not the biggest fan of design elements being thrown onto a Pokemon for no reason. If it's there just to be there, I don't think it's justified in being part of the design, and so I wasn't satisfied with this design either, and ultimately threw the Pokemon out altogether. However, it wasn't until fairly recently that I actually discovered something that would make this ghost-type Chipmunk work perfectly. There's actually a ghost town in Colorado known as St. Elmo, and in addition to your typical ghost town attractions, one of the distinct things about this place is that there are tons of chipmunks who are super friendly to tourists and will just come up to you and even eat out of your hand if you let them. This very unique situation and combination of different elements is honestly the perfect thing to base a Pokemon on, and even though I didn't have it in mind at all when I made these ghost chipmunks, I really love how it gives meaning to the design, so to speak, and it makes it like 10 times cooler in my opinion. It'd be the kind of thing that you would have to have a Colorado or Western US region to really do, but I love the idea and I love how it made these two so much cooler for me when at first I thought they were kind of uninspired. Moving along, one of my favorite ghost types that I've had the opportunity to design is Scaraboo. Scaraboo is another Pokemon from my Cardinal series, and it doesn't really have deeper inspiration to it other than the general idea of wanting to do something different with a Caribou type Pokemon. Making it a ghost type I thought was a really creative direction to take, and the reason for that approach simply comes from caribou with an emphasis on that boo part of the name. I was originally just going to call it Caribou as well, just spelled B-O-O, until I realized that adding an S to the beginning of the name would introduce the word scare as well, and when stuff kinda just comes together like that, it just makes the Pokemon feel so much more natural and cool in my opinion. Once again, it has a reason for being that way, and that makes me pretty proud of little Scaraboo here. Something that is yet to be made into a Pokemon that I feel like should be sooner or later is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. I feel like it could inspire a really charming fairy type, so I took a stab at it myself with my ghost fairy type, Hoopsie. The most emblematic part of the entire Little Red Riding Hood story is, of course, the hood, so I decided making a Pokemon based on the hood itself would be pretty fun. I also enjoy a good inanimate object Pokemon, which is what inspired this as well. As far as making the hood into a living, breathing creature, ghost types seem to make the most sense because that way the hood can truly, well, be a hood, and when it comes to that face that's underneath, a good mystery Pokemon who hides its true face is always really intriguing, and this example can sort of be counted as an homage to the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood as well, who conceals its true face with a disguise. Not to mention, I think this Pokemon is pretty cute, and cute ghost types are always fun to have as well. One type combo that's pretty rare amongst ghost types is Ice Ghost, and given that my Cardinal series is based in a region that is based on Canada, it seemed like a good opportunity to make it happen. However, with that being said, this line of Iced Ghost Pokemon didn't quite make the cut for my Cardinal series when it was all said and done. The original concept was for an Icicle Pokemon that gradually gained features of the Grim Reaper as it evolved. It also grew as a body of ice as well, going from an Icicle in its first stage to an Iceberg in its second stage, but then taking on more of that full Grim Reaper form in the last stage. I personally like the first stage, and this line does have potential, but I decided not to include it in my Cardinal series because it just didn't end up in the direction I was envisioning with it. Although I am still super happy to show it to all of you guys and describe my process, because the process of making a Pokemon, even if it doesn't quite make the cut, is really fascinating in and of itself. I've mentioned before on the channel how one of the type combinations that's never been used before that I most want to see happen is Normal Ghost. It's such a cool combo that could make for such a cool Pokemon, so I of course had to try making one of my own. My take on the concept is Sporito, and it is based on a spirit bear. It is a rare variation of the American black bear that is all white, and as such is a prime candidate for the normal ghost type. However, I personally like when Pokemon have multiple designs that blend together well, and when thinking of things that could go with a spirit bear, one thing came to mind, and that was Totoro from Studio Ghibli. Since Totoro is not only a pretty big icon, but also a spirit and kind of a bear-like creature as well, I felt it was the perfect bit of flavoring to add onto this concept to make it that much more interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Our final Pokemon of the video is a special one because it's a legendary, and that would be this ghost type right here. Now, I can't give the full shebang on all the details here unfortunately because my Pokemon Cardinal series is still ongoing, and I promise I'm not trying to plug it or anything, but there is still a lot to this guy that I can discuss anyway. First, it's part of a legendary trio that is known as the Life Trio, with this member of the trio naturally representing the end of life. It obviously has features of an elderly person, like the big bushy eyebrows and hunched posture, but in addition to representing a phase of life, it also represents an object that is symbolic of that phase too. And that object for this member of the trio is a bone, which you can see with the ribcage pattern around its, well, ribcage. The true interest of this Pokemon, though, is when it comes together with the other two members of its trio, which will be revealed in a later episode of Pokemon Cardinal, so if that interests you at all, give the series a watch if you haven't yet. And there we have it. So what did you think of these new ghost types? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You can also further support the channel if you would like by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify as well as other streaming services, which actually helps out a ton and is immensely appreciated, and I love you to death if you guys listen to my music. With that being said though, I will be back very soon with another video, so until then, as always, I love you guys very much, and I will smell you guys later.